Welcome to this presentation of our employee self-service portal with real-time connectivity to J.D. Edwards. My name is Ken Johnson. I'm the Easy Process Evangelist here at KRI Systems. I'm here with Doug Pulaski.
Hello, everyone.
And Doug is our key man on e-commerce, and really glad to have him here today. So at this point, I guess we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much for attending this webinar, and I'll review some PowerPoint slides in brief, emphasizing the last word because we want to get to the demonstration. Kent will go through the demonstration. We do have a J.D. Edwards. We have J.D. Edwards World and E1. We're pointing to one of our E1 environments to show the J.D. Edwards integration with our HR, employee and manager self-service solutions. But first, I'm going to go through, like I said, slide decks to give everybody an overview of who we are, KRI Systems, where we're located, and how we are positioned within the Oracle J.D. Edwards ecosystem. So with that, KRI Systems has been around for actually over 13 years. We are a software company. We're a software company that, as you can see on the bottom, Oracle Gold Partner. We also affiliate ourselves with Quest from a Gold Partner perspective. And what's very important to our customers is that our Oracle solution, or our Oracle integrated solutions are OVI certified, which means that Oracle and J.D. Edwards has fully vetted these solutions to work. They've assigned us the J.D. Edwards System 99 codes for the purposes, an example of integration with J.D. Edwards. So there's not going to be any object conflicts and such with our solutions. We have a number of practice areas. I'm focused on e-commerce and payments. Both Kent and I are focused on the partner and buyer solutions dealing with PO acknowledgement and paperless invoice matching, two-way, three-way voucher. And then the third bullet item down here is our focus with today's webinar, HR employee manager self-service. Think of it as a layer, an extension of functionality that works interactively, real-time, business functions, direct table access with the J.D. Edwards solution. It is positioned as an alternative to using the J.D. Edwards modules. The other down, kind of interesting, on what makes KRI's unique and different. All of our applications are written on a enterprise development and integration platform that some companies develop themselves. Most companies want us to develop and deliver turnkey solutions. I'll touch on that. That platform is called Easy Process. I want everybody that's attending to feel comfortable with the fact that we've been around for 13 years, and this is just a sampling of some of our J.D. Edwards customers out there. And as you can see, it reflects big companies, Mercury Marine Division of Brunswick, Christie's Auction House from New York and London, Windstream Communication, Fox, Los Angeles Fox, so Amway. These are all very, very big billion-dollar-plus companies. And of course, J.D. Edwards' customer base reflects the many so-called SMB, small and medium-sized businesses, and you see some of those up there too. Now, getting back to KRI as a company, it's a product company. This represents the various practices, and as I indicated, and I'll show with my cursor here, that the HR employee self-service, dealing with employee and manager self-service. We have time entry part of this, and we're going to be reviewing that today. From a J.D. Edwards perspective, we think of time entry more associated with payroll, and ESS and MSS more associated with HR. And here's another graphic that talks about our many products. And once again, the commonality is every one of our solutions are based, are developed on top of the Easy Process development platform. And there's a lot of advantages for companies to do that. Number one, we can do custom extensions without it being a, quote, custom code extension. It's the platform is developed so that if you have, as an example, custom tables and F55, 56 that we need to factor, or even tables or applications outside of JD Edwards, it's simply part of the base, and you're not moving into that legacy realm of modifying the software. The development platform allows you to do that. So this is another graphic that kind of positions our solutions within the ERP landscape. And the Oracle validated integration, I want to stress that again with this separate slide. So our solutions have been fully vetted by Oracle, and our overall functionality reflects this slide here: time entry, leave request, obviously my profile, pay stub, tax forms, and we don't have on here benefits too. So we have functionality to manage benefits interactively with the way you set up JD Edwards. And just real quick, because we're going to be going through our demo environment, and it's always good to put in perspective actual deliverables. I already mentioned WestJet, 9,000 employees, and 98% approval. And this is a quote from Michael at WestJet. It's a success story. We'll leave it at that with some metrics. There's an example, obviously, when Michael gave this to us, he wanted to protect the integrity. Some people obfuscate the data in their QA environment, others don't, so that's why this is that.
So I'm going to be logging into our base ESS portal, and we're going to be logging in as Edward Eckner, who is, I believe he's set up as the 6601 address number in our JD Edwards. So when we log in, you get a menu here at the top. Since this specific login is an employee only, he can see his pending approvals and his submitted requests, and then he just has the employee menu. So a little bit later, Kent's going to log in as a manager, and you'll see the manager menu as well. But these are all the different actions that you can perform as an employee. For the JD connectivity test, I'm going to focus on this self-service screen. So the self-service screen is going to show you all of your personal information that's in JD Edwards. So your first name, last name, home address, postal address, the different phone numbers that you have set up. You might want some tax information to display, and then there's also the emergency contacts shown from the who's who in JD Edwards. So really quick, I'm going to log into JDE, and we're just going to see that this is a true reflection of the data that's in JDE.
It is Matt's doing that. We work with JD Edwards. The user ID obviously has their login credentials related to address book numbers. Same thing with managers, the employees underneath them. So that relationship is embedded in their user ID, which is derived from inside of our application. With JD Edwards, many times we're, as an example, updating information transactionally and or at the field level through master business functions using what's called in the interoperability manual of JD Edwards, the XML call object, or we do it straight from the table, or some companies come back and they say, can you use the Z programs for whatever reason? We have a preference with that. So we're very, very flexible in terms of how we integrate with JD Edwards.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so if we just do a quick switch back and forth here, you can see Edward has this 801 or 8101 San Houston address set up in the system, and that's reflected directly to his home address. So if we give a quick update to say, let's say, apartment 99 here, and then just hit submit. So this page is set up to also do approvals. To update your home address, it's not part of the approval. An example would be if you try to update your last name, that would go for approval. But this is just a direct update to JD Edwards. And if we go back here and just do a quick refresh, you can see that it updated the address line 2 to apartment 99. So another example would be, let's say we wanted to either edit or delete an emergency contact from our list. So we can, let's say we're going to delete Jack Bauer. So let's take a look in JD Edwards.
Good luck. No one deletes Jack Bauer.
Let's take a look at the who's who. So Edward is line 0, and then he has his 4 emergency contacts that are set up as friends in our system. And you can see they're all friends. So if I just do a delete on this, I don't believe this goes for approval.
So these kinds of pages are highly configurable. Some of them configured by an admin, which I'll give you a quick glimpse at. Some are necessary for us to configure during when we're doing an implementation, but it's very important because you get very specific rules on each of these fields can be updated. You can decide whether or not you want approvals or not across the entire piece we show you today.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so you see the Jack Bauer was deleted from the portal, and then if we go back here and just do a refresh, you'll see line 6 was deleted from JD Edwards as well. So it's real-time integration to JD Edwards. We're doing database reads and then updating with business functions, so all of your customizations will be taken into consideration on the data updates.
But it's your decision. Emergency contact changes could have gone through a workflow process.
Yes, absolutely. Which actually, let's take a look at updating the last name. So if I wanted to update my last name to Minchuk, that's my last name. Upon submission here, that should actually submit a workflow request rather than updating. There you go. So request submitted for approval. Any updates that do not require approval has been updated. So when the screen refreshes, this still reflects the live data from JD Edwards. But once this manager actually approves the request, then it will update JD with the correct information.
We do love to do custom demonstrations for you, and we're glad to have a technical person for several demonstrations you may require. I'm going to log back in as Edward Eichner. He showed us a self-service screen, so we won't go there. We're going to work our way through the day of a life of an employee self-service portal here, and we're just going to go through each menu choice. So now the video will come to you later, and if you want to just do a screen capture, these are the out-of-the-box features of this portal. That does not exhaust the portal. For example, we do not have the calendar of accumulated leave time, and there are features growing for this portal at all the time. In fact, I'm going to just quickly show you, this is a screenshot of an admin screen that would allow an admin to manage the self-service page. And here you can see things like the minimum number of phone numbers. It requires 3. Emergency contacts, 1. So the admin, we don't need to step in and do anything. The admin can manage many of the screens, many of the fields on the screen, hide them based on users. We give quite a bit of control to your HR admin just administrating the employee self-service portal. Trying to demonstrate all of that is beyond the scope of this demonstration today, but we want you to know that you're not calling KRI systems for every single little change that you need to make. Your team can work with the portal as well. And adding to that note, your team can actually learn. Easy process. We do a 2 to 4 week training. So be aware that you get the keys to this portal. Let's look at a real nice little feature, confirmation of employment. Obviously, this is confirmation of employment. This is a screen that can be turned on or off for the actual employee themselves. The manager has access to it. They may choose to keep that access and just generate that and email it to the employee. Sometimes a company can choose to only email them directly to the requestee. So the employee may say, my landlord is requesting it or my bank is requesting it, and it would go to them. We'll take a look at this here. This can be done by phone and sent to a printer from the phone. There is the PDF, and this can be sent to a printer. These elements that are within this are completely configurable. Generally these days, you don't print out a Social Security number anymore. You just print the last 4 digits, if that, maybe date of birth. You might not put a salary in a letter like this, but you might. It just depends. That's all configurable. And that could be based on the employee as well. It might be that higher level management does want their wage and that standard staff would not want it. Direct deposit. Employees love being able to get access to and edit their direct deposit accounts. And here you can see drilling down, changing routing numbers. It's your choice whether you want these to authenticate against a web service directly on the spot. I think most of our customers that are using this do that through JD Edwards automatically. That happens, and the check happens, the validation happens in JD Edwards. That would be up to you, but to give the employee control at any time, real time, is always a boon to your staff. In general, within Easy Process applications, we tend to have 2 formats. Read-only, a lookup page, and then a page where you actually manage and edit information. And sometimes that lookup page is only just people with certain authorities. This is the lookup page for the vacation time. I'm going to go ahead and go right to the leave calendar, to the request to leave. I'm sorry. Well, there's a leave calendar. You can look up and see his vacation. In fact, let's go ahead. What's today? Today is the 23rd. Let's put a day off on the 29th. You can see there's nothing here. And back up and go to requesting a leave. You have a lot of options with regards to how you format this screen. Some companies want to have the ability for an employee to enter multiple days worth of vacations and then submit. Some have a paradigm where they really just want one time at a time to be submitted. Okay, so you can see here now we have many different types of requests that we can make. It's good to know that this is coming from JD Edwards real time. It can be managed in our portal, but generally the choice, of course, is go to one source of truth within JD Edwards. It might be that the admin, while pulling these from JD Edwards, might still not make them all available. You might have some very complex or specific things that need to be requested in person or for whatever reason. But let's just do moving, and we pick it for, I think I said the 29th, right? 29th of June. But you know what? Let's do something else here. Let's make it for the 21st, just so you see. If I request this for the 21st. We should get, you are not allowed to submit leave in the past. Now, this is not actually true. There are companies that allow you to select leave in the past. You may have you may have called in, asked your boss for the day off, maybe at a family emergency, and then realize a week later, oops, I haven't. This is just an example showing you that we can control errors here, and we can restrict data entry based on whatever rules you need. Some companies actually do allow you to do things in the past. In our base module here, it is not allowing for that. So we'll do the 9th. Okay, so this has been added, and this goes into a queue here for us to work on. So in other words, you still have a staging area to work on things before you do the final submission. You might look and go, oops, that isn't the right date. I'm going to go in and edit it. But you might want to go ahead and add 5 or 10 of these. Maybe you have a whole bunch of leave you want to use up, then submit it for approval. So this will now go, because it's vacation, it's very simple. It just has one level of approval. It goes to the manager. We'll log in there in a moment, and we'll approve it. The leave request has been submitted. So now the leave request. No.
So if you look at, it's like 5th in the list.
Let's move to the manager and let's go approve that. Approvals are happening through our workflow system, and the workflow works in queues, and these queues can be checked every minute, but during a demonstration, even 1 minute kind of feels a little bit long. Let's just talk about these menu choices, 2 of them. Pending approvals, that's work that I need to do, and my submitted requests, those are my holiday requests that I've submitted to my manager. So we'll go right to the pending approvals. We are logged in as a manager, and is this the one? Moving. So he has 2 requests in queue, and You know what, we'll go ahead and we'll do this here. We're going to go ahead and reject his training. So you are perfect and need no training. So we'll reject that training that he's requested. And we'll do this because you are moving, you should not ask for training. So we're going to approve this one. One feature we haven't put in here, be aware that you have the ability to have comments that are attached only within the portal, kind of in managing the approval. And remember, some of the approvals, we'll see one a little later, has many more steps than just employee and manager. So you may have much more communication that needs to happen. Some of that communication you might choose not to go into JD Edwards, and some of it you might choose to put that there. You have the option to add fields here. Be aware of that you really can manipulate a lot more than what you're seeing. If we put every feature in every element of this portal, it would be way too confusing to be able to demonstrate. You wouldn't be able to get past all of the different things on the screen. So we're going to log out, log back in as Edward here, who's apparently moving, very sad, and see what we have. So he's going to go back to his submitted request. So again, we might be waiting. Let's see if this is it. Okay, so this is the one. We see that he submitted it, went to the manager. Every step of the way is in the history here. You can see that the manager has added a comment because you're moving, you should not ask for training, a silly comment. And then the request was denied, and then it is updated in JD Edwards. And this is actually a step. You know, nobody has done this step. This was done by Easy Process, by the Employee Self-Service Portal, but it is an activity that took place and we track it. During implementation, you choose, do you want this history to be stored in JD Edwards ongoing? If not, it can be stored in our database and it can stay in the database there and be available long-term for tracking. Probably best to push it into JD Edwards and have it saved there for future audits. So let's continue on with the day in the life of this employee. He's done requesting a leave. His leave calendar now should reflect the 29th. You see there's leave there now available to him. What do we have next? Paystubs. Okay, this is an important feature. And we should mention that the features that you're seeing here, we are able to license them individually. So if your company knows that you're going to have real serious ROI by no longer printing pay stubs, you're just going to email them, or you're even just going to make it a standard that people log in to see their pay stubs, we can license it just for that one feature alone. And then later, as you realize the value in many of the other features you're seeing today, we can increase the licensing based on your upcoming needs. So Easy Process gives you a lot of control. Not only over the application, but also over the licensing that we can start with. So here you can see the pay stubs, and we'll click on a check number. This is just a quick representation of it, pulled up real time. The PDF, you can choose. This can also be constructed real time, or can be created and saved. And we'll save that here, and then we'll go over. We'll take a look at that pay stub, and here we have a properly formatted PDF, and this PDF can be printed out, emailed, whatever the staffer needs to do. This can include your branding. There's not much branding on this page, but you can have your logos and different kinds of branding you need there. So that's the pay stub feature, very powerful feature. Timesheets, time entry, also very powerful need that's available to you within the Employee Self-Service module. So it's quite a bit to look at here. To go into full detail is a lot more extensive than we can possibly pull in the last 20, 25 minutes here. Be aware that this is very customizable. And Doug, you've done some demos too where this has been changed quite a bit, quite drastically.
Right.
But it's a very powerful tool. And as your people learn to use it, they'll love it too.
The main thing about time entry is all of that is integrated, the company code, the job number, the type of, and you might click that pull down under type there. This is all coming real time from J.D. Edwards, the cost codes. And there's really 3 ways to enter time, and that's to simply fill out the mandatory fields across. The other thing in the upper right is you can create default values, because pay periods per employee are very, very similar. So you can create various defaults.
And certainly construction companies have people working many, many, many different jobs with different schedules.
Right. So you can pick a default, and then that default you can take as is or edit it. And if you close that, the last way is going into historic pay periods. So you can go into a prior pay period up on top there and upper right. There you go.
Both pay periods, right?
And that's the historic. So you can either create it from scratch, use defaults, or prior historic pay periods.
Now, one that's not implemented here, and it's one that we do implement for customers, we just don't have it for demonstration purposes, is you can do an upload from the spreadsheet. So if you have crews out working remote areas and they fill out spreadsheets, those can come back, be emailed to someone who would do an upload. Uploading from spreadsheets is a standard feature within Easy Process applications. It's a little beyond another thing, a bit beyond doing this. Be aware that that's also something that can be FTP'd into a directory. Can be automated, so we can do automatic uploads from spreadsheets in a directory. Easy Process gives us the power to implement things for very, very large companies that have those kinds of complex needs, or if you just need the basic direct entry, you can implement it that way. And this screen can be tremendously simplified for maybe weekly entry if that's the way you want it. Lots of potential for ways to do things here. So very powerful screen. We'll go on from here. Okay, tax time. We do have this for Canada too, of course, for the T4 forms, but this is basically, you know, being able to look at your information and do an upload. You might want to change your exemptions, the amount you're withholding, that kind of thing. You can make those changes here. These rules, of course, can be enforced, can even need approval if you need them. So W-2 forms, let's take a look at that. If you want to, very similar to the Paystubs, you can save and then open up your W-2. There we go. So here you can see W-2. Print them out to your heart's delight, and of course those of us who have problems losing them, we know right where to go. We go to our employee self-service portal and access those forms. Benefits enrollment is a really powerful need here. So here I can go in, I can see the benefits that I have. We're going to manage here. Let's just say that my wife has gotten much better insurance now, and I'm going to opt out. Wife has better insurance. We can browse. We can add a PDF. And of course, for this need, we don't need it. But if we were applying for any one of these, you look over on the right. But you can have all the forms necessary for any one for all of these, and the employee can upload those. I'm just choosing a PDF here. But so that's added, and when I submit, we'll see a little bit later approving that, and that actually goes to yet one more level of approval. So our workflow is very powerful. And the benefits, let's be clear, this is all reflecting the real-time J.D. Edwards status of the benefits of this employee. And when you make changes in J.D. Edwards, which there are some management of benefits that we don't reflect or give to a manager. Those are done directly by HR staff in J.D. Edwards. But all of that is now reflected and allowed to make changes directly by the employee. Be aware that these fields can be highlighted or made non-available during enrollment time. So you might have for 1 month, all of a sudden they can access the life insurance, and that's now available to manage, and you can email and alert people, and they can get alerts every day until they manage that and make changes to it. or just, acknowledge that they're not taking advantage of it. So it's a very powerful screen, and again, this could be licensed just by itself with tremendous returns on your investment, just for giving this.
And Ken, let me also add the native app, the smartphone. If you look at some of the areas of functionality, a use case scenario might be an employee sitting down with a mortgage person and being able to real time from their smartphone going in and emailing the W-2s for the last 3 years, bringing up a letter of confirmation, employment confirmation, printing it out, creating a PDF, and sending it right to that person real time. So this is extremely powerful, especially when you look at the mobile angle, which we're showing it from a desktop, a web page, so to speak, perspective.
Well, one of the email announcements we did for this, I talked about message in a bottle. And that story is I interviewed someone for a position here, and she worked for a very large energy company. None of our customers, no, but everybody would know here. And the process there to ask for a vacation, leave request, was to fill out a paper form, put it in a very familiar brown elastic envelope with the elastic band, or we could just all feel wrapping that paper strap around that little button there, right? Putting it in the mail. It goes across country, and then she was told during training, then log in about a week later to see if it was approved. Well, Doug, you just gave an example of a letter of employment where the person sitting with the mortgage broker could actually request it, and if it's set up a certain way, could actually come from his boss at his boss's email address immediately. Compare those two employees. The one employee is being trained and told, check a week later to see if your vacation has been approved. That does not create great confidence in a company. So you've just hired them, they're being onboarded, and then they find out they got to fill out a paper form and put it in a ratty envelope that's going to somehow get somewhere. Whereas another employee is trained, shown an app on a phone, and now they sit with a mortgage broker, maybe for their first home, very nervous. Boom, they know exactly what to do, and they're proud of their company. So an employee self-service portal like this, increasing engagement is a catchy phrase out there, but it really creates confidence in the company. So let's log out. We're going to move to the manager's half of this portal now. And let's take a look at what the manager has. Be aware that logins change the experience of the user. Here you can see the manager has a menu that did not appear for the employee. This is a feature of all Easy Process applications. It's something that's much easier to do than in standard development that gives us a profile of a user and the access that they get. So, for instance, no employee should ever have access to other employees' data. Well, they would never even be able to click on this because it wouldn't even be there. So we're going to go backwards through these. We're going to look at managed positions. Doug, you had mentioned that mass positions there, and this is where a user can manage positions in a company. We can add a new position, and this is pretty complicated form. I'm not going to try and add one of these now. As you can see, a lot of rule enforcement here. We could have lookups to J.D. Edwards, attachments, defining the position. Really what this is a requisition for a position. So we're requisitioning a new position, and that would go through a workflow to the proper people who would approve that new position, and then we would go about hiring that person. You can see that these positions here that already exist, we can edit them and make changes to them, or we can extend them. And these are important features. We can, if this is a temporary position, maybe we've gotten more money in the budget, so now we can add new additional cash to extend how long these positions run. And they can also be deleted. We won't delete them. They're handy to have here. But this is a very powerful tool. Many companies don't use the position feature like this, but this allows you to, in a sense, basically step in the way of the J.D. Edwards rules that are forced on you and to give you more freedom. We believe in J.D. Edwards. We push our customers to use J.D. Edwards more, but there are times when you want to have a little different best practice than maybe J.D. Edwards is encouraging. Managing job codes. Of course, for construction companies, this is a big deal. You can add them here. Rules enforced here. We don't have any lookups here, but this can all be lookups against J.D. Edwards. But if we're creating new things, we probably have a new name. Important table. Timesheets. So a little more powerful. than the employee who can only manage their own. Here, a manager can view and edit those submitted times that we saw, or we can submit on behalf of. So we can make changes to, the defaults of the employee. We can set up defaults for the employee. This is a really powerful tool. The number of screens that an HR person would have to go through to do these kinds of things in J.D. Edwards is counted on more than one hand, I'm sure. So basically, this is the on behalf of kind of functionality where an employer, a manager can approve, delete, and update things on behalf of the employer or as their boss. So let's just say we've gone through, we've looked at all those. We can now approve all of them, reject all of them. A lot of power in this portal. Let's go to the Manager's Workbench. This is the most powerful page of all. And here we can see all of my direct subordinates. You can see I have 30. But if I choose, I can choose all the subordinates. We'll find. So their subordinates and their subordinates now reflect 135 people that I'm responsible for. So we'll go back to the direct support. It doesn't really matter. We don't need to go back, but we will. Because we like to use Edward Eichner. He's our favorite employee here. So the way this works, I'm going to do a drop down here and just briefly talk through them. Terminate, don't need much definition there. Employment condition, and this can be different for every company. Pay rates, all kinds of things that we can manage on that. Manage move, we've mentioned the more complex thing is to move a staff member within teams or to other teams as people move in and out of the country, in and out of divisions. How do you do that? Complexity for an HR person to do this managed move within J.D. Edwards moved it into the hands of only a handful of employees, HR employees. Now with this managed move feature, they're able to do it directly through the control of the actual manager themselves. And actually, if you think about it, it's more than one. You are moving someone from yours to another, or vice versa. Someone else is moving an employee from your group to my team. Both of us would need to approve that. Easy Process Workflow allows for that kind of complexity, branching that approvals between departments. Even being able to demonstrate that is almost impossible. I would be going to so many different people logging in to demonstrate it. It's the kind of thing that we save for a more one-on-one kind of demonstration where your team needs that feature.
And Kent, really what you're reinforcing is, once again, the personalization that is required for every implementation. Getting back to my earlier point about all companies having their own nuances and ways of creating the portal so it suits their company's requirements. And that's the key thing that Kent is talking about is the requirements. Whether you call it managed move or something else, or you don't need it or you need something else, within the context of the sales campaign, we can actually personalize the demo environment based on a high level of requirements, discovery, discussion with you, and create a more personalized vision of how this would actually work for your company. And that gets back to my comment earlier about the inherent flexibility of EasyPay, allowing us to do this type of personalization even as part of the sales campaign.
Manages shows who you manage, who they manage. Obviously, we know leave requests, we know Paystub verification. Let's just take a quick look at the most complex screen we have in this portal, and that is the Manage Move. So this is the most complex screen in terms of what it does. And here you see we can choose the team we're from, moving to, a lot of choices here and we can add, of course, add files as usual. When we hit the submit, the number of business function calls, the logic that's going on is beyond belief. So be aware, if you have complex needs, we can reflect it in a portal. If you have best practices that go against what some others would say are best practices in J.D. Edwards, we can put your best practices alive in our application.
And then the other thing that I wanted to stress is, especially with cloud deployment, and this is actually a question that did come up during the session. With the cloud deployment, we are totally taking out the infrastructure. The question, though, is with cloud, how do you connect with my JD Edwards Enterprise server? And whether it's World or whether it's E1, the answer to that with cloud deployment is through what's called a secure point-to-point VPN connection. So with Rackspace, we have the environments. We would create an environments for you because our implementations do involve dev and QA test and production environments. And then for most companies, their JD Edwards servers are residing in their local area network. So if that's the case, we find out what your firewall is, and it's a very, very simple process. Matt, would you say that, you know, it's something that we've done actually within an hour or two once we get back to our cloud, say Rackspace, and then talk to a network person with what IP configuration parameters and things like that?
Yeah, so the firewall needs like the VPN parameters to be set up. So we'll talk to Rackspace and communicate the two sides, you know, to Rackspace and to the client.
But literally, that's it for infrastructure. I mean, we're taking care of the VPN. We do have to have a conversation with your network person, and we've got the environments, and it's true cloud. So it is that VPN connection, and tied to another question, it doesn't matter whether you're on World, any version, or Enterprise One, any version greater than XE, which is about 13 years old now, because that has the XML call object. That's B7333.
We certainly appreciate your attending today. We'll be aware that licensing is available on premises. We are in the cloud with Rackspace and available with SaaS monthly licensing. Maybe those in municipalities can do something better monthly with less need from infrastructure IT people.